Gentlemen, Bobby Bolivia, like the country, except without the runs.
Actor, comedian Bernard McCullough died early Saturday morning at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago. A publicist for the 50-year-old says he passed away from complications due to pneumonia.
It was like, ooh, you know, nothing I had ever seen. And I saw him and he was just shaking. And I remember going to him and I said, oh God, I said, Bernard, please don't die.
The secrets Bernie Mac took to his grave will shock you, especially the ones involving the people closest to him. Long before his final days, the tension between Bernie and Steve Harvey had already cracked something deep within the original kings of comedy. On stage, they smiled. Off stage, it was cold.
All I can say is what Bernie told me. And he was upset with Steve because he said Steve tried to get him taken off for the Oceans movie he did.
Oceans 11?
Yeah, and tried to vie for his part after he already got hired.
D.L. Hughley once admitted the group never reunited because Bernie and Steve just couldn't get along. Cedric the Entertainer called it an alpha male clash.
I remember I was at the golf course and we were getting ready to put it together and everybody was all excited. And
apparently, Steve tried to steal roles from him, even his spot in Ocean's 11. And from that moment on, he was done. Okay, let's get into it.
He was a smooth, articulate, real nice dresser. I can see why my mother, probably was attractive to him.
Before Bernie Mac became a famous Hollywood star, his life was not easy. He went through a lot of struggles and pain. He worked hard for many years trying to make people laugh while dealing with real problems in his personal life. Bernie Mac grew up in a tough neighborhood. He didn't have much money, and his family didn't live in a big fancy house.
There was a lot of people in this house. At one point, it might have been 10 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. That's a lot of people.
Life was rough, but Bernie always had one thing that helped him: his sense of humor. He could make people laugh even when things were hard. He believed laughter could heal pain, and he used that gift to keep going, hoping that one day someone would notice him.
I said, Mom, don't cry. I said, Mom, don't cry. And Bill Cosby came on television and started doing his thing. And my mother broke out laughing. And I said, Mom, that's what I'm gonna do. I said, I'm gonna be a comedian so you never have to cry again.
In 1992, things started to change for Bernie. That year, he performed on a popular show called Def Comedy Jam on HBO.
You know you're a black motherfucker who put fingerprints on charcoal.
This was a big moment for him. The show gave young comedians a chance to show their talent to a bigger audience. Bernie went on stage and gave a powerful performance that people still talk about today. He wasn't scared, and he didn't hold back. His jokes were bold, loud, and real. People laughed, cheered, and started to remember his name.
Because the word mother is a noun. It describes a person, place, or thing.
After that show, more doors started to open for him, even though the journey was still not easy. Following his success on Def Comedy Jam, Bernie started getting small parts in movies. He was in Mo Money in 1992.
These guys are with me. This girl is a runaway, been following me all day.
And Friday in 1995.
Why don't you just give him a little bit for my cataract?
You didn't put in on this, man.
It's better to get a receipt, my brother.
These roles weren't big, and he didn't have a lot of lines, but he made the most of them. He used these small chances to learn more about acting. He watched other actors, listened to directors, and kept working hard. He didn't let the small roles discourage him. Instead, he kept believing that his big moment would come. He knew he had something special, and he just needed the right opportunity to show it. Bernie's style was very different from many other comedians. He told jokes about real life. He talked about growing up poor, about family problems, and about pain. But he did it in a way that made people laugh. His comedy wasn't always soft or gentle, but it was honest. This helped him connect with people. It made audiences feel like he understood them. His fans didn't just laugh at his jokes, they felt like he was telling their story too. Soon after, Bernie got a chance to host his own show on HBO. It was called Midnight Mac.
You all in for a treat. I got this lovely young lady coming up. She's no bigger than a minute. We got a $1 million voice. You're gonna be entertained tonight. She's from Memphis, Tennessee, but she lives here. Please give a warm applause for one of my favorite, Melvia.
This show allowed him to truly show off his talent. He didn't have to follow anyone else's rules. He could be himself, use his own style, and speak in his own voice. The show was short-lived, but it helped more people see just how talented he was. After that, bigger opportunities started to come his way. One of the biggest moments in Bernie Mac's career came when he joined the original Kings of Comedy. This was a movie and a live comedy tour that brought together 4 of the best black comedians at the time. Steve Harvey.
It's like that big movie that came out, the Titanic. White people always running to jump on some bullshit. Did you go see that long, dry movie?
Cedric the Entertainer.
We think just because we born black, we just think we can beat up white dudes. In our mind, we like, white boy, beat your motherfucker. You better go on that bullshit, boy. You don't do that in the country, man. Trying to tell you that shit ain't gonna go like you think at all.
DL Hughley.
Let them know that if your house is on wheels and a hurricane is coming, drive the off.
And Bernie. The tour was a huge success. They performed in cities across America, filling big stadiums with fans who couldn't wait to laugh. The movie version, directed by Spike Lee, became a classic. Bernie Mac stole the show with his powerful performance. His jokes were raw, real, and unforgettable. After this, the world finally saw just how special he was. But behind the scenes, not everything was perfect. In a 2018 interview, DL Hughley talked about why there was never a second Kings of Comedy tour. He said there was a big reason it didn't happen. Bernie Mac and Steve Harvey were not getting along. According to DL, the two had different views and didn't agree on many things. They were both strong, proud men, and sometimes that caused problems. DL even remembered being on a golf course with the others, talking about doing the tour again. But just one day later, everything fell apart. Bernie didn't want to go through it again, and the plans were canceled.
I remember I was at the golf course, and we were getting ready to put it together, and everybody was all excited. And
some say part of the problem was that Steve Harvey was getting more attention from TV networks. Steve had more TV shows and more media coverage. This may have made Bernie feel like he wasn't being respected enough. Over time, Bernie started getting more recognition, but by then, he had made up his mind. He wanted to go his own way and focus on his own projects. He didn't want to be in anyone's shadow.
It's like that big movie that came out, the Titanic. White people always running to jump on some bullshit. Did you go see that long, dry movie?
Each of the 4 comedians had a different style. Steve Harvey was known for joking with the audience. He would look at people in the front row and make funny comments about their clothes, hair, or jobs. His jokes were light and playful. Bernie Mac, on the other hand, talked about serious things in a funny way. He talked about struggles, family problems, and life's hard lessons. Some people say Steve didn't like how Bernie's deeper style was getting more attention. This may have made Steve feel uncomfortable or even jealous, leading to more tension between them. Cedric the Entertainer also talked about the issues between Bernie and Steve.
Of course, that was definitely a contributing circumstance, but I also think that it had a lot to do with the promoter on the thing, because he got a bigger head than all of us. Right. So the dude that put us all together started to really think it was about him, On a podcast with Shannon Sharp, Cedric said that Bernie and Steve were both alpha males, meaning they both wanted to be the leader. He said they just saw things differently. Even though they managed to work together at first, the tension between them stopped them from doing another tour. Cedric also said that the person who brought them all together for the first tour started to act like he was the star. That caused even more problems. Yeah, I mean, they were the kind of guys that they both alpha males, like they both, they just saw it different, Right.
Another voice who spoke about the tension between Bernie and Steve was DJ Ed Lover.
Well, that's what all I can say is what Bernie told me. Mm-hmm. And he was upset with Steve because he said Steve tried to get him taken off of the Oceans movie he did.
Ocean's 11?
Yeah, and tried to vie for his part after he already got hired.
On his podcast, Come On Son, Ed said that Bernie once told him directly about Steve's behavior. Bernie said Steve tried to take movie roles from him. One example is the movie Ocean's 11. Bernie said Steve tried to get his part in the film. Ed Lover said he believed Bernie because he heard it from Bernie's own mouth. He said Steve didn't treat Bernie with respect and even tried to hurt his chances in Hollywood.
Well, that's what all I can say is what Bernie told me. And he was upset with Steve because he said Steve tried to get him taken off of the Oceans movie he did.
Ocean's 11?
Yeah, and tried to vie for his part after he already got hired.
In 2003, Bernie Mac had an interview with GQ magazine. He said Steve was jealous of him and tried to block him from getting certain roles. Years later, in 2010, Steve Harvey finally talked about it. He said Bernie's words hurt him, but many fans didn't believe Steve was being honest. Some people even said Steve had a history of treating other comedians badly. One fan online wrote, "Steve always acted like he was better than the others." Another fan said, "People don't know the real reason Bernie died. There are secrets out there we may never know." This brings us to the sad part of Bernie Mac's story, his death. Bernie died on August 9, 2008, from pneumonia. But many fans still don't believe the full truth was told.
Actor, comedian Bernard McCullough died early Saturday morning at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago. A publicist for the 50-year-old says he passed away from complications due to pneumonia.
The day before he died, news reports said Bernie was doing better. His publicist said he was stable, and even his doctor said Bernie was alert and talking. Then, suddenly, just 24 hours later, he was gone. This made a lot of people ask questions. How could someone seem okay one day and die the next?
My last conversation I had with Bernie was he called to tell me that he was opening up for a month at MGM Grand in Vegas.
Bernie had been living with a disease called sarcoidosis. This disease causes swelling in the body's organs. It can be very serious, and it made life hard for Bernie. Even though he was sick, he kept working. He kept performing, acting, and doing interviews. He didn't want to let his fans down. But the truth is, all that hard work was wearing him out. His body was getting weaker, but the world didn't stop to give him rest. In Hollywood, the focus is often on money, not on health. Some people close to Bernie believe the entertainment business didn't care enough about him. They say he gave his heart to comedy and acting, but didn't get the support he needed when he was sick. He was trying to make people laugh while he was suffering on the inside. That's why so many fans still feel sad and confused about how his life ended. Bernie Mac was more than just a funny man. He was a fighter, a husband, a father, and a real person who gave everything to make people happy.
It was like, nothing I had ever seen. And I saw him and he was just shaking. And I remember going to him and I said, "Oh God," I said, "Bernard, please don't die."
In 2007, Bernie shocked everyone when he announced he was retiring. On The Late Show with David Letterman, he talked about how he wanted to slow down and enjoy life. "I've been on the road for so many years," he said. "It's time to savor life a little bit." It was a rare moment of honesty from someone who had spent so much time entertaining others. Even after deciding to step back, Bernie didn't stop completely. He kept acting and making people laugh. In 2007, he played a funny and charming car salesman in Transformers.
Gentlemen, Bobby Bolivia, like the country, except without the runs.
He also voiced a character in the animated movie Madagascar, Escape to Africa. His last movies, Soul Men and Old Dogs, came out after his passing, showing how dedicated he was to his craft. But while Bernie gave his all, the entertainment industry kept demanding more. It's heartbreaking to think about how much pressure he must have been under, even as his health got worse. Instead of slowing down to take care of himself, he kept going because that's what the industry expects from its stars. His last days in the hospital were full of pain, sadness, and questions. Bernie was taken to the hospital on July 24, 2008, because he had a high fever and trouble breathing. He stayed in the hospital for 17 days until August 9th. During that time, he was in the intensive care unit. That's the part of the hospital where very sick people go. Bernie couldn't breathe on his own, so doctors put him on a ventilator, a machine that helped him breathe.
I said, I'm gonna take care of you. If you just come back, I can take care of you.
Bernie's sister-in-law, Marianne Grosset, talked about how hard he tried to stay alive. She said doctors did everything they could to help him. She said they worked on him. They tried to bring him back to life 2 times. One of those times, Bernie came back for about an hour. He opened his eyes, and there was hope. But then, his heart stopped again. This time, he didn't come back. It was very hard to watch, especially for his family. His wife, Rhonda, and their daughter, Janice, were there the entire time. They never left his side. They were in the room, watching as doctors tried their best to save Bernie. It was a painful and emotional time. Even when Bernie opened his eyes for that short hour, he could not speak properly. It had already been more than a week since he had been able to really talk to his wife. Imagine sitting next to your loved one, holding their hand, and not being able to talk to them or hear their voice. That was the kind of pain Rhonda and Janice were feeling. Rhonda later talked about something that made the moment even more chilling. As she was sitting and waiting in the hospital, she suddenly felt something strange. She felt a cold gust of wind pass by her. It was not from the air conditioner or the window. It felt strange and scary. It was like something had changed. When she was finally allowed to go into Bernie's recovery room, her fear became real. She saw Bernie's eyes wide open and his body was shaking. It was clear that something was very wrong. That image stayed with her forever.
It was like, ooh, nothing I had ever seen. And I saw him and he was just shaking. And I remember going to him and I said, oh God, I said, Bernard, please don't die.
But something else made people ask questions. During Bernie's last days, not many people from his inner circle came to visit him. Almost none of his celebrity friends came to the hospital. Even those who were close to him said they didn't know how sick he really was until it was too late. This made people wonder if someone had kept the news secret on purpose. Maybe they didn't want anyone to visit. Maybe someone didn't want people to know how serious his condition was. Before he died, Bernie Mac had started speaking out more about Hollywood. He had just written a book called Maybe You Never Cry Again. In the book and in interviews, he started to share his thoughts about the dark side of being famous. He wasn't afraid to say that some people in the industry treated him badly. He had arguments with other big stars like Steve Harvey and even with powerful people behind the scenes. He started pulling away from some Hollywood deals. He wanted to be his own man. He was no longer afraid to speak the truth. Bernie's wife doesn't believe that her husband had to die. She thinks his death could have been stopped. She filed a lawsuit in Chicago against one of Bernie's doctors. The doctor's name is Dr. Renee M. Earls. She says that Bernie went to see this doctor on July 17th, a week before going to the hospital. At that time, Bernie already had a fever and was very tired. He was also struggling to breathe. He stayed in the doctor's office for 9 hours, but the doctor didn't help him enough. The lawsuit says that Dr. Earls didn't notice the serious warning signs. Bernie had a fast heart rate and couldn't breathe well. The doctor didn't call 911. He didn't send Bernie to the hospital. If he had done so, Bernie might have gotten the help he needed earlier. Another doctor who supported the lawsuit said that Bernie's life could have been saved if he had received care in time. Bernie always spoke the truth. He never stayed quiet about what mattered. If he were alive today, he would probably tell us not to trust everything we hear. He would want people to ask questions. He would want people to dig deeper. Now let's talk about Steve Harvey and his connection to Sean Diddy Combs.
You feel me? Do that do that do it, do that do that.
For many years, Steve and Diddy have appeared to be good friends. They have been seen together at events and award shows. They have praised each other in public. But when you look closer, it doesn't seem like a true friendship. It looks more like a business arrangement. Back in the early 2000s, Diddy was a big star. At the same time, Steve Harvey was trying to change his image. He was moving from being a stand-up comedian to becoming a TV host and author. Being close to Diddy helped him get into bigger rooms. People say Diddy helped Steve connect with important people in Hollywood. In return, Steve made Diddy look more respectable. Diddy would appear on Steve's shows to look good in front of regular families. It was like a trade. Both men got something out of it. But was it all just for show? Something strange happened in 2024. Steve Harvey deleted a tweet from 2017. In that tweet, he had praised Diddy for helping kids. He called Diddy my brother and said Diddy was doing a lot of good. But after Diddy got arrested and charged with serious crimes like trafficking and racketeering, Steve quietly removed the tweet. Other celebrities also started cutting ties with Diddy. Usher and Megan Fox deleted posts or changed their social media too. Why did Steve delete that tweet? Some people think he is scared. They believe Steve is worried that Diddy might expose him or name him in one of the cases. There have been rumors for years that Steve was part of Diddy's wild parties. Some even believe Diddy has something recorded on Steve from the 1990s or early 2000s and has used it to control him. It gets even more dramatic. People were shocked when they learned that Steve Harvey's daughter, Lori Harvey, was once rumored to be dating Diddy. Imagine that. Steve's daughter dating a man almost her father's age. Some think this was not about love at all. Some believe Steve allowed this because Diddy had helped him in the past. Cat Williams even made claims that Steve let his stepdaughter date Diddy to pay back a favor or to stay quiet about something Diddy knew. In 2019, Diddy and Lori were seen together many times. They were seen having lunch, traveling, and spending time together. In one trip, they even went to Italy together. And guess who was with them? Steve Harvey and his wife, Marjorie. At one point, Lori was seen wearing a big ring, and rumors started that they were engaged. But Lori quickly shut that down. She said, "I'm not engaged. Stop believing everything you read on a blog." A few months later, in October 2019, Lori unfollowed Diddy on Instagram. That's usually a sign that the relationship is over. People close to Diddy said it was just a fun fling. Diddy, they said, was still dealing with personal pain and focusing on his kids. Now that Diddy is in serious legal trouble, many are asking hard questions. Who else was involved in his parties? Who knew what was going on? And who stayed silent? Steve Harvey's name keeps coming up. People are now watching old interviews and noticing that Steve never asked tough questions about Diddy. He never mentioned the Cassie situation. He stayed quiet when many others started speaking up. As more stories come to light, fans and the public want the truth. They want to know who knew what and when. And as for Bernie Mac, many believe his story was cut short before he could tell his truth. His death still leaves behind pain and a lot of unanswered questions.